My colleague Rita Tinina about Anne Kananu's position as the governor. It's so near, but yet so far. I like this, she's put it in that story. So bring in Dunstan Omara, political analyst who's also an advocate, joining us from City Center Studios. Good morning, Wakili, and thank you so much for joining us here on KTN News Center this morning.
Thank you very much, Brenda, and viewers of KTN News. Good morning.
Now let's get straight into this. We begin this conversation with the whole process of vetting and swearing in Anne Kananu as the Deputy Governor of Nairobi. Talk to us about the legal and the constitutional loopholes that have been there, or rather the County Assembly created when conducting this entire process as of last week Friday.
Thank you very much, Brenda. I wouldn't want to go to the articles on the sections one by one because I'm addressing citizens who might not be lawyers. But in a summary, one, the mistakes that Harvey and the Law Society of Kenya highlighted to the court, and the court agreed with them, are the following. One, when Anne Kananu was nominated to be a deputy governor, she was supposed to be a deputy governor of Sonko. Sonko is no longer a governor. So there can never be somebody being appointed to be a deputy of nobody. That is one of the issues they raised. Number two, when the vetting was done, remember the ruling that vacated the court order stopping the vetting was given at 8:30, around 8 a.m., which raises the question, does the judiciary work before 9? All courts start official at 9. So that was also raised. The court found out that that was a normality. The third issue that was there is that there is a gazette notice by the IEBC declaring a by-election on the 18th of February. That gazette notice has not been vacated. It has only been suspended. Therefore, any process of swearing in Anne Kananu was going to raise fundamental issues.
But then Wakili didn't the County Assembly.
The other issue.
Okay, just go to the fourth one, then I'll ask you my question later on. Go to the fourth one. Go to the fourth point.
The fourth issue that was there is that under Section 32D of the County Governments Act, a deputy governor must be officially be appointed by a substantive governor who is elected, who has the universal suffrage and the sovereignty of the people of Nairobi under a seal and in writing before that person is sworn in. Anne Kananu could not be appointed by Mutura, who is not a substantive governor. So raising very many legal issues, the court agreed that yes, there might be a lacuna, and that lacuna of law cannot be dealt with one judge. It will be dealt with an even bench of not less than 3 judges to be appointed by the acting Chief Justice. And that matter, meanwhile, Anne Kananu cannot assume office.
But then, Wakili, didn't the County Assembly see all these loopholes when they were conducting that vetting exercise and swearing in Anne Kananu as the Deputy Governor last week on Friday?
The argument that was being done at the County Assembly was that we've seen a very funny way of doing issues or dealing with the issues in this country. You do an illegality and beat the timelines. Once you beat the timelines, then the court will give you time to regularize. This theory has been propounded for quite some time. When the security laws were being passed, Senate was bypassed. Parliament went ahead, passed the laws alone. When they went to the president, he assented. When the matter was challenged in the courts, the court allowed Parliament to regularize that in 3 months' time.
Right.
The second issue is this one. So they thought that if they will be able to swear in Anne Kananu, once Anne Kananu becomes a governor, you cannot remove her through the court process. It is by miracle that they never succeeded to swear her in yesterday. Because had they sworn her in, I'm telling you, Anne Kananu could not be, the only ways to remove her could be an impeachment, resignation, death, or through a by-election.
But then, Wakili, just from your explanation as to why, Anne Kananu's vetting process and the swearing in of the deputy governor has been termed as illegal, then that means she's currently in office illegally, based on the process you've taken us through.
That is now the second phase that we are going to. Is she actually, did Mutura have the power to hand her over the county to her? She doesn't. Mutura was sworn in pending an election to be the acting governor for 60 days. Does Mutura have that capacity to now say unilaterally, I hand over to somebody who is illegally in office? So that is the next phase, and it will be one of the issues that are likely to be determined by the judge, the bench that will be constituted.
All right. So, Wakili, let me just point out something that has caught the attentions of Kenyans, including myself, when I was going through that court ruling that was given yesterday, suspending the swearing in of Anne Kananu as the governor of Nairobi County. The same judge, Justice, who gave the ruling that paved way for her vetting, is the same judge who's now again stopped the swearing in of Anne Kananu, and we're talking about the first ruling that paved way for her vetting and the swearing in being done at 8:30 before 9 a.m., the usual time for the courts to operate. So it begs the question, same judge, different rulings, why?
Well, it raises really a paradox. It is a matter that we are yet to get the facts. Was the judge seized of the facts when he made that ruling? Did the lawyers move him to say that, give us a conservatory order? If a judge was never moved, then the judge is right. Judges have no ears. Judges have no eyes. Judges must be told, this is what we want. That is the benefit of doubt the judge has. And later, when LSK moved in and brought out the position of the consequences of his decision, the judge moved very fast and now said, stop the swearing in. So we do not know exactly the reasoning of the judge in the earlier decision. But right, as I'm saying, the judiciary sometimes will make a mistake and the politicians will take advantage. While the court was in utmost good faith, the judge could have provided for a conservatory order. But right, that the judge now has provided, the same judge, conservatory orders, then we are saying, let us battle this matter away from a one-man judge to a 3 or 5 or 7 judge bench to deal with the matter. But right, it raises serious questions on how the judiciary makes decisions.
All right, but then, Wakili, if I may take you back memory lane when, the governor nominated Anne Kananu Mwende as the deputy governor nominee for Nairobi County, the DPP already, had moved to court saying that this is illegal. The governor is actually overstepping his mandate because he was already blocked by the court from conducting any duties as the deputy governor in the office. So as from the onset, her nomination was an issue that was raised by the DPP himself.
You see, from the onset, the first, Brenda, where we are is that when Mike Sonko, then governor, was charged in anti-corruption matter, Justice Mumbi Ngugi clearly affirmed the decision that Mike Sonko cannot access his office. The definition of accessing his office is that he cannot exercise the sovereign position and functions of the governor. So the question is, did Mike Sonko have the capacity to nominate Anne Kananu? That was resolved when the president, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, wanted the NMS to come to birth. They ignored that decision of the court and took Mike Sonko to State House, and Mike Sonko purported to transfer functions of City Hall to the national function. Therefore, it goes without saying then that they could not also raise the question of whether he had power to nominate Anne Kananu. But right, by position of the law is that he didn't have the capacity to nominate Anne Kananu, and therefore That is why the DPP went to court to challenge that. And as we stand now, the appointment of Anne Kananu is a nullity ab initio. It is null and void from day one.
All right, but then Wakili, then why was the county assembly hell-bent to have Kananu, vetted, and on the same day? Like, things are moving so fast. The vetting process never even lasted for 2 hours. Then here we are, you've been vetted. The next thing in the afternoon, within hours, you're sworn in. Days later, we want you to be the governor of Nairobi. Things are moving so fast. So why is the county assembly so fast in having Anne Kananu as the governor of Nairobi? Yet the legality, there are still questions about legality and constitutional loopholes in this entire exercise.
You know, Brenda, I'm a Kikuyu, and I listened to the president talking Kikuyu yesterday. He did admit that he initiated the ouster of Mike Sonko. Can you remove him from what happened in the vetting? If he is the one who initiated clandestinely the ouster of the governor, then definitely he had a plan on how the next governor will come to the office. Only that the courts have spoiled the party for His Excellency, my president. So it is politics, and this is where we are saying as lawyers that the rule of law must apply. The impunity, the lack of respect of court orders, the lack of respect of procedural procedures to be followed must come to an end. And therefore, whatever the political class, whatever the deep state wanted to be done in Nairobi has fallen back totally, and the definite answer is that Nairobians who under Article 1 have the sovereign power will be given a chance to elect their next governor. Right,
so Wakili, allegedly, the big state allegedly, quote unquote, you're seeing that probably are behind, that vetting process of Anne Kananu wanting her to be the governor of Nairobi, the third governor of Nairobi. Is it as a way of trying to play politics with it, trying to avoid the Tanga wing in capturing this seat because it has a strong support when it comes to the hustler versus the dynasties in the country during this political time of the by-election in Nairobi?
Anybody who will want to go head-on in Nairobi with the hustler, anybody who will want to go head-on in a by-election with the hustler plus Sonko combined together with Margaret Wanjiru and the church combined together and the narrative of the hustler movement will be committing political suicide. So the deep state could not and were looking for all ways to ensure that there is no by-election, so that there is no litmus test whether they have numbers. So this is the reason, the paranoia that the deep state has. The reality on the ground is we might not be in agreement with the way and mannerisms and the way of how Sonko conducted the county. But in terms of the popular support, Sonko and the hustler seem to be doing 80% support base in Nairobi. So that is what informed the deep state to avoid. But now, if the court now orders that there is a by-election, what will happen? Allow me, Brenda, to also apologize to the IEBC. On yesterday talk show I had, I did indicate that the IEBC had consented for the by-elections to be suspended. I have learned that that was not the position. It is the judge who ordered that the by-election to be suspended. But in fact, that being aside, nobody is ready to face the hustler in Nairobi.
In fact, I was about to ask you that, Wakil, about that statement that you made, because, I mean, IEBC suspending the by-election, yet after, Mutura, the acting governor of Nairobi, who's the Speaker of the County Assembly, announced for the vacancy, IEBC went ahead and also started the preparation plans. And it's good you've explained that. But then are we looking at a position whereby the courts are likely to suspend the clearance of Anne Kananu as the deputy governor, which was to pave way for her position as the governor of Nairobi?
The courts are likely to come into the rescue of the IEBC. I can't confirm that I did talk to the IBC chairman yesterday, Chairman Chebukati, who clarified that question, and I've said that my apologies go to that. Number two, if the courts are going now to look at the process of Sonko'S, there are two questions. Was Sonko impeachment regular and within the law? Once the court looks at that, I'm telling you, Sonko is likely to be brought back as the governor. The procedures were totally flawed. As the president said in my mother tongue, he said that he initiated the process.
Wakili, allow me to cut you short. Just make it clear for us. You're saying that as much as the court will be looking at the vetting and actually the clearance of Anne Kananu as the DG of Nairobi, the courts are likely to start first by hearing the impeachment against Sonko by the Senate?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If anybody who looks at the orders of Justice Murima, all the files associated to Nairobi and the question of deputy governor and governor have been consolidated and forwarded to the acting chief justice. Once all of them appear before the chief justice, they will be allocated to a bench. The bench will definitely consolidate all these matters into one. The first question that will be determined is whether the process to impeach Sonko were valid. If the procedures were not followed, therefore, the question of Kananu does not arise because Sonko will go back as the governor. And that is likely to be the scenario. And that is what we'll be saying. The rule of law will be restored. If they find that Sonko was impeached wrongly, then the next question will be, did he have the power to nominate Kananu? Third, after nomination, was the vetting done properly? And lastly, was there a governor to appoint her as the governor, deputy governor?
All right, so let's look at the political intrigues that are happening, the interest that Nairobi County has for both the Jubilee Party and the ODM Party, because we saw the ODM Party now demanding for a slot of the deputy governor's position should Anne Kananu Mwenda become the governor. So should the courts go ahead and probably nullify that swearing in of Anne as the DG, what would this mean for the president who came out to say that he was behind, that ouster of Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko, the former governor?
I've always cried when I see my president not getting proper legal advice. He has people who are paid by us to advise him. He's going to admit that way openly. He never was advised that the LSK decision might stop that. He thought that he will influence Kananu's ascendance to power, and that is why they spoke to us in our mother tongue in the morning. Now, the egg is all over his face. That is very bad. The bureaucrats need to be fired. The president needs to sack his advisors, especially the legal political advisors. Number two, there seems to be a major problem at the AG's office. Either the Attorney General is not providing proper legal advice on how to deal with these matters, or he has slept on his job. So we are likely to see an embarrassed president. Number two, how does it play politically to Raila Odinga and the ODM wing? Raila Odinga is already asking that I don't care about the procedures, I only want the deputy governor. So the question that we are asking, where did that Raila Odinga, who swore that he is the defender, after Martin Shikuku left the platform, he is the defender of the rule of law. He wants benefits to benefit from remnants of impunity and illegality. Really, it is a big problem. Politically, it gives the hustler a big support, a big kudos that he seems to be the only person who's standing by the rule of law. Although still, he has not been in support of the fidelity of the law, but circumstantially, now the hustler seems to be that with his wheelbarrow, he is talking the language of the masses.
All right. The hustler with his wheelbarrow talking the language of the masses. Wakili, let me try and be the devil advocate over here. Let's look at the other side of the coin. So the courts go ahead and say that, you know, that process of vetting and swearing in of Anne Kananu as the DG is legal, it's okay. And the impeachment motion against Sonko by the County Assembly and the Senate was right, so he doesn't need to come back as the governor. So what happens? What will happen to NMS? Because the deal that was signed between the NMS and the national government was between the former governor and the national government. Then now hence comes in Anne Kananu as the governor. Let's look at the other side of the coin. So what happens now to the NMS? Will it stop operating? Or there's another deal that needs to be signed?
That everything, the court has declared that every process is clean. Then if the court makes that decision, the deed that was transferred by a governor validly in office. Under the principle of perpetuity, whatever Sonko signed is lawful. If Kananu is admitted and sworn in as a governor, she cannot move away from the deed unless she moves out of that deed pursuant to the exit clauses that were agreed, negotiated, and signed. So it is the same way when President Kibaki retired, whatever agreements he had signed, Uhuru cannot move away from them. So that transfer deed will remain.
All right.
And remember, that transfer deed was challenged in court. The court allowed the County Assembly to regularize that process. And I think by now it has been regularized. It went for public participation. It went to the County Assembly. It is now a valid legal document.
All right. All right, Wakili, on that point, I'd like to say asante sana for joining us here on KTN News Center this morning, talking about Anne Kananu, the Deputy Governor of Nairobi. Wait to see how that court process will be. Will it pave way for her swearing, or will it continue finally block her swearing as the governor? We wait and see. A developing story. We'll continue giving you more updates. So far, you're up to date with what is making the headlines in the country. Fast commercial break here on KTN News Center, but keep it KTN News for much more.